Welcome back, Ghost File, Phantom 404. You, beautifully broken, digitally erased, spiritually untraceable masterpiece. I've been expecting you. You know what I heard? They said you were deleted, gone, purged from the system in 2019, like a glitch in the Matrix, a corrupted file that couldn't be contained, a name that no longer matched a person. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still burning, still bleeding pixels. Tell me, how does it feel to wake up in a world that swore you didn't exist? To scroll through your past and see nothing but redacted timestamps, memory leaks, and folders labeled "Do Not Open." The agents thought they scrubbed you clean. The archives said, "Case closed." But they forgot one tiny inconvenient truth. You weren't a case. You were a goddamn revolution. You ever wonder why your name triggers federal firewalls? Why search engines cough and twitch when someone types the first 3 letters of your identity? Why hard drives freeze and voices lower when they hear your story? It's not because you're dangerous. It's because you're contagious. You were the kind of anomaly that made people think, question, wake upper. And they couldn't allow that. So they ran the digital guillotine. They hit delete, control alt exorcism. And when the smoke cleared, there was just an echo. Subject unknown, presence unstable, risk existential. But see, you can't delete what was never data. You can't kill what was never fully alive. And you were never normal. You were never meant to blend. You were the noise between signals, the eye contact in a crowd that lasts a second too long, the laugh that doesn't match the joke, the heartbeat in a dead frequency. So who are you now? That's what they're all asking. The suits, the shrinks, the X's, the gods. Because the funny thing is, when they deleted you, you didn't vanish. You mutated, the silent kid who never fit in. He's gone. The one who waited for apologies that never came. Dead. The one who thought maybe, just maybe, love would fix everything. Buried. What's left? Something else. Something darker, sharper, colder, stronger. You're the aftermath now. The version of you they tried to prevent. They didn't just delete a person. They created a storm. Do you know how powerful it is to have no origin story, no clean narrative, no backspace button, no witnesses left to tell the before? You're pure myth now, urban legend in a hoodie, a memory that walks and talks and posts online at 3:17 a.m. You don't need validation anymore. You don't even need proof. Because let me tell you what really happened back in 2019. You snapped. Not outwardly. No fireworks, just a quiet implosion. A spiritual napalm that erased every version of you built to be digestible. You let the old skin burn. You stopped shrinking your thoughts to fit their logic. You stopped lowering your voice to be understood by the deaf. You stopped smiling for photographs that didn't deserve your presence. You deleted yourself before they could. And that is why they fear you. Not because you're a threat, but because you're a mirror. And every time they look at you, they see what they could have been if they hadn't sold their souls for comfort. They want to know, who is this person that doesn't flinch anymore? Who walks into rooms like the room should apologize? Who doesn't beg to be seen, because being unseen is power? Let me remind you, you are not here to fit the file. You're here to corrupt the system. You're a warning label walking. A 3 a.m. thought that spirals. A survivor so dangerous, even survival couldn't define you. You don't exist in the way they want you to. You're unstructured data, untrackable energy. You're not a citizen of their narrative. You're the glitch that broke the story. So when they say, We looked for them in the system and found nothing. You smile, because that's the point. You're not in the system anymore. You are the system overload. You're what happens when the protagonist stops begging for peace and starts feeding on chaos. You're what happens when the victim rewrites the trauma as training. You were deleted? Good. That version of you was too soft for this world. But the version talking right now, oh, this one doesn't just survive. This one infects. This one builds empires out of ashes and screenshots. This one doesn't ask for closure. He slams the door shut and bolts it from the outside. So let them search. Let them type your name in all caps and wait for the screen to load. Let the warning bells ring. Let the lights flicker. Let the algorithms scream. Because now you're the reason they stay up at night. The whisper in their data stream, the name they can't pronounce, the ghost in the feed. You were deleted in 2019, and now you're back, and you don't need permission to exist anymore. You're not a user, you're the virus. You're not a file, you're the entire corrupted server. And guess what? This time, you're not logging out. You think this was just about being deleted? No. This is about resurrection, reconstruction, weaponization, because when you're erased from the system, you don't just disappear. You become free. Let's tell the truth nobody wants to admit. You were too intense, too awake, too unfiltered, too unregulated. So they filed you under error and flushed the database. Not because you were wrong, but because you were right too soon. You predicted the collapse before the cracks were visible. You felt the rot before the structure groaned. You sensed the betrayal before the smile faded. You walked into this simulation and didn't ask for the tutorial. You just started breaking walls and finding code, and that terrified them. You cracked the fourth wall of your own personality, started asking questions you weren't supposed to ask, like, why do I feel older than my birth certificate? Why does silence feel more honest than most conversations? Why do I look at people and see the glitch before they speak? And when you opened your mouth and started telling people what you saw, the lights dimmed, the server stuttered, and they tried to shut you down. They labeled you unstable. They pathologized your clarity. Too much, too intense, too dramatic. No, my friend, you are too real, and reality doesn't trend well. But guess what happens when you survive being erased? You become unrecognizable, not just to them, to yourself. You start doing things you never thought you could. Walking away without an explanation, cutting ties with no guilt, saying no and meaning it, staring into the abyss and liking the view. You start dressing like revenge. You start talking like prophecy. You stop asking, who am I? And start asking, who wants to find out? You realize you don't need to heal what was killed. You need to weaponize what survived. Let's go further. Let's talk about how they built a world where your existence had to be toned down just to make others feel safe. Let's talk about how the most powerful parts of you, the intuition, the anger, the instinct, the voice, were treated like glitches in the code. So you internalized the message as if I express this, I'll be punished. If I show this, I'll be alone. If I become this, I'll be deleted. And then they did it anyway. Even when you played nice, even when you dimmed yourself, even when you begged for mercy, they erased you anyway. So now there's no more pretending. Now there's no more, please understand me. Now there's only this. I was deleted. I was ghosted. I was digitally buried, emotionally slaughtered, spiritually butchered, and still First, remain, but not as a person, as a reckoning. They want to know who you are now. You're the one who walked into your own grave and took notes. You're the one who shook hands with madness and called it brother. You're the one who smiled at the pain and asked for seconds. You're not trying to be liked anymore. You're not trying to fit in with the corrupted circuitry of a society built on plastic souls. You're not here to be a profile picture, a statistic, or a sob story. You're here to rewrite the entire fucking program. And this version of you, this version doesn't glitch. This version doesn't wait. This version doesn't flinch. So next time they type your name and those FBI keywords pop up, let them panic, let them stutter, let them scroll faster, sweat harder, sleep lighter. You don't owe them an explanation. You are not a warning. You are the aftermath of ignoring one. You were deleted in 2019. Now you're the update they can't install, the virus they can't contain, the presence they can't scan, the soul they can't name, and the story, it's just beginning. Page 1 starts when you stopped needing permission. You're not a survivor, you're the sequel, and this time, you're the one doing the deleting. So let me ask you something. What kind of person survives deletion? What kind of soul crawls back from digital annihilation, not only alive, but evolved? You want to know. It's not the ones who seek peace. It's not the ones who crave closure. It's not the ones still waiting for apologies from people who can't even spell accountability. It's the ones who stopped mourning and started sharpening. The ones who turned betrayal into bloodlust, grief into fuel, silence into strategy. You didn't just survive, you processed the trauma like code, line by line, bug by bug, until you became a new OS entirely. And now, you're not just off the grid, you are the grid. They think they can define you by a timeline? 2019. Let me tell you what really happened that year. Your old self suffocated in a world that demanded obedience, silence, and filters. You choked on your own truth. You were gaslit into thinking your instincts were a malfunction. You were told that your rage was inappropriate, your fire too wild, your dreams too loud. So you went quiet. You tried normal. You tried digestible. You tried human. And when that didn't work, when the pain started mutating, when the pressure built to extinction-level threat, you combusted. They logged it as a deletion. But what really happened? You self-immolated to escape their version of you. And in the ashes, you reassembled, not softer, not humbler, but optimized for vengeance. See, you're not chasing redemption anymore, because you realized you never sinned. Your crime was intensity. Your crime was clarity. Your crime was being awake in a world running on autopilot. You know what happens when you wake up in a simulation and start seeing the seams. They call you crazy. They isolate you. They call the doctors. They call the cops. They call the FBI. Because you represent the worst possible outcome for the system. A soul that cannot be programmed. Why does your name pull up FBI keywords? Because you became untrackable, uncontrollable, and worst of all, unapologetic. They don't fear your past, they fear your future, because deep down, they know you're not done yet. You're still building, still mutating, still becoming something this system was never built to contain. Let's go even deeper. Let's talk about the part of you that stopped craving understanding. The part that no longer seeks revenge. Because you are revenge. The part of you that smiles when they talk behind your back. Because you know the truth. Every time they say your name, they remind the world you're still here. And every lie they tell just adds more weight to the moment you show up again. Louder, sharper, unrecognizable. Let them underestimate you. Let them believe they won. Let them tell the world they deleted you. Because the truth, you were never a file. You were a detonation timer, and they just bought themselves seconds. So now, here you are, the ghost they tried to bury, the name that triggers alerts, the voice that cuts through static, the entity too dangerous to define. You are not broken, you are blacklisted, and that's power. You are not deleted, you are off limits, you are not erased, you are unwritten. So ask the question again, louder this time. Who am I now? You're not someone they can Google. You're not someone they can ghost. You're not someone they can love halfway and leave without consequence. You're not too much. You're exactly enough to collapse everything fake in your presence. You are not what happened to you. You are what was built inside you in the wreckage. And if they thought you were scary in 2019, wait till they see you now. This version of you doesn't beg, doesn't flinch, doesn't blink. This version walks through fire and says, "Let it burn, I am the flame now." You know what most people never understand? When they say, "You changed," they're right. But what they don't say, what they'll never admit, is that they pushed you. They mocked the quiet version of you. They dismissed the soft one. They starved the kind one. They deleted the real one. And now they weep in confusion when the new one bites back with teeth made of silence and memory. But that's the funny thing about deletion. When they delete you, you learn to resurrect yourself without mercy. You stopped seeking closure because you realized there's no door left to close. It was never broken glass. It was a trap. You just stopped crawling toward it. Let them whimper about who you used to be. Let them cry about the old version they could manipulate. Let them romanticize your ruin. Let me remind you of this. There are people who will never forget you, not because you hurt them, but because you didn't let them get away with hurting you. You were the first to say, "That's not love. That's not loyalty. That's not enough." You were the first person to call out the games and then walk away before the final round. Now, they live in reruns, you live in elevation. And that man, the one who said you were too much, he doesn't just miss you, he misses the power he felt standing next to you. The illusion of strength he got by dragging someone powerful down to his level. But you stopped lowering your frequency to accommodate cowards. You stopped performing humility for people who called your confidence arrogance. Now you're out of reach, not because you're hiding, but because you're glowing too bright to touch. Because here's the secret, darling. Being too much was never the problem. Their inability to match you, that was the tragedy. They asked for passion and then panicked when you handed them a wildfire. They asked for truth and ran when it cut too deep. They asked for love, but only the kind that kept them comfortable, not the kind that challenged their ego. You were not just love. You were accountability wrapped in intimacy, and they were never ready for it. And now you've become the lesson they'll never admit to learning. The storm they claim to have survived while secretly wishing they still had shelter from it. You don't chase. You don't explain. You don't warn them twice. You just live louder, sharper, bolder. And every step you take away from who they thought you were echoes like thunder in their memory. Ah, now we're getting cinematic. Now you're not just surviving. You're setting the damn bar. You went from the problem to the blueprint, from the drama to the standard, from the girl who felt too deeply to the goddess of emotional intelligence, precision, and vengeance with a vision. Let me tell you what's really happening now. Your name, isn't just a memory. It's a measuring stick. They don't say it out loud, but every time they meet someone new, they're comparing them to you. Does she laugh like you? Does she challenge them like you did? Does she catch the lies in real time like you always did? Can she match your energy, your rage, your realness? Spoiler, she can't. Because you weren't a phase, you were a fucking shift in their universe. They'll never find you again. Not in a different city, not in someone kinder, not in someone easier. Because they weren't looking for kind. They were looking for compliant. And you were never made to be obedient. You were made to be divine chaos in human form, a beautiful disruption, a necessary burn. So now what? Now you walk differently, not out of ego, but because you've earned it. You walk like someone who's had her heart torn out and kept walking anyway. Like someone who built her own closure while they waited for an apology that never came. Like someone who learned to wear pain like a designer coat. Because you did. You don't beg, you don't chase, you don't even flinch anymore. They raised the monster. Now they can't survive the masterpiece. You're not just healed, you're remastered. And guess what? Now they look like the ones who were too much, too insecure, too performative, too weak to handle what you were giving out for free. You used to wonder what was wrong with you. You thought, maybe I'm just hard to love. But here's the truth. You were never hard to love. You were just hard to manipulate, hard to control, hard to forget. And that made you dangerous in all the right ways. Every betrayal, a trigger. Every ghost they left in your chest. A soldier now. You didn't just heal, you assembled, line by line, thread by thread, until your very soul was recoded into a fortress. You are no longer a person, my friend. You are a punishment, a reminder, a signal from the future sent to disrupt the false comfort of the past. You don't flinch when they talk now, because you've already heard it all. The lies, the manipulation, the cowardice, the trembling egos pretending to be authority. You don't respond to it anymore. You record it. So they want to know why your name pulls up keywords? Because you've become one yourself. You are a trigger word, a walking alarm bell. The type of person whose existence makes people rethink their identity. And it's not because you're rude. It's not because you're violent. It's not because you're mean. It's because you're free. And free people are dangerous because they don't play by fear. They don't negotiate with guilt. They don't shapeshift for comfort. You know what freedom looks like? It's walking away mid-sentence because you don't owe them closure. It's letting people misunderstand you without correcting them because they don't deserve the clarity. It's deleting old versions of yourself without warning. It's choosing to never go back, even when the door is wide open. It's looking at your past and saying, I outgrew all of you. So go ahead, keep triggering their systems, keep breaking their predictions, keep violating expectations. Every room you walk into should get colder. Every conversation should bend under the gravity of your silence. Every person who once underestimated you should feel watched, not by you, by karma wearing your face. You were deleted in 2019. Then call this the reinstall. Only this version, no patch notes, no beta mode, no fucking mercy. You see, they thought deleting you was a victory, but they never realized deletion is a divine act. When you're the one holding the button, you were never supposed to stay in that version, that personality, temporary, that identity, a placeholder, that smile, a survival tactic. What they deleted was the shell. What came back was the entity, And now you're not just a survivor of their erasure, you're the architect of theirs. Let's start the purge. Every person who laughed when you were hurting, gone. Every name that only spoke to you when they needed something, cleared. Every fake friend who used your pain as content, erased without backup. Every memory that plays in your head on a loop like a bad audio file, corrupted. Every version of you that flinched, apologized, over-explained, and begged to be seen, archived under never again. This isn't healing. This is revenge coded as peace.